What happens when two of the most talked about women in the world come face to face on live television, and one of them refuses to back down from the truth? Today, we're diving into the explosive moment that had everyone talking, when Meghan Markle and Kate Middleton found themselves in an unprecedented confrontation that nobody saw coming. If you think you know what really went down, think again. Make sure to subscribe and drop a comment below because this story will leave you speechless. The studio lights blazed hot as Whoopi Goldberg leaned forward, her voice cutting through the tension that had been building for the past 10 minutes. Meghan, you've been very vocal about your experiences with the royal family, but today we have a surprise guest who might have a different perspective on some of your claims. Meghan's perfectly composed smile flickered for just a moment. She had been expecting this interview to go smoothly, another opportunity to share her side of the story with the View's audience. But something in Whoopi's tone suggested this wasn't going to be the supportive conversation she had anticipated. "I'm always open to different perspectives," Meghan replied carefully, her media training kicking in. "Truth has many facets, and I believe in honest dialogue." Joy Behar jumped in with her characteristic directness. "Well, you're about to get some honest dialogue. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Catherine, the Princess of Wales." The audience erupted in surprised murmurs as Kate Middleton walked onto the stage with the poise and grace that had made her one of the most beloved members of the royal family. She wore a navy blue dress that seemed to command respect without saying a word. Her smile was warm, but her eyes held a steely determination that suggested she hadn't come here to play nice. Meghan's face went through a series of micro-expressions: shock, confusion, and then something that looked like calculation. She hadn't been told about this ambush, and for someone who prided herself on being prepared, this was clearly throwing her off balance. "Catherine," Meghan said, rising from her chair with what appeared to be genuine warmth, though those watching closely could see the tension in her shoulders. "What a lovely surprise." Kate accepted the brief embrace, but her voice was cooler than her public persona usually allowed. "Hello, Meghan. I thought it was time we had a proper conversation." Sunny Hostin, always eager to stir the pot, leaned forward with barely contained excitement. "This is incredible. We have both duchesses, well, former and current, here together for the first time since the wedding," Kate finished, her voice carrying a weight that made everyone in the studio sit up straighter. "Yes, it has been quite some time." Whoopi gestured for both women to take their seats. "Catherine, you rarely give interviews, especially not in America. What brought you here today?" Kate's hands folded neatly in her lap, every inch the composed royal. "I think it's important that people hear all sides of a story before they make judgments. There have been many claims made recently, and I believe in the power of truth and accountability." The words hung in the air like a gauntlet thrown down. Meghan's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but her voice remained steady. "I couldn't agree more, Catherine. Truth and accountability are exactly what I've been advocating for." "Have you?" Kate's question was delivered with such quiet intensity that it felt like a slap. "Because from where I'm standing, it seems like you've been quite selective about which truths you choose to share." The audience held its collective breath. This was not the polite, diplomatic exchange anyone had expected. Sarah Haynes tried to lighten the mood. "Ladies, perhaps we could start with something positive. You both have experienced incredible journeys into the royal family." Kate's laugh was soft, but held no humor. "Yes, let's talk about our journeys. Meghan, would you like to share how your journey began? The real version, not the one you've been telling in interviews." Meghan's composure was starting to crack, just slightly. "I'm not sure what you mean, Catherine. I've always been honest about my experiences." "Have you?" Kate leaned forward slightly, her voice still controlled, but with an edge that cut through the studio's air conditioning. "Because I remember our first meeting very differently than how you've described it in your various interviews." "Our first meeting was lovely," Meghan replied, but there was a defensive note creeping into her voice. "Was it?" Kate's eyebrows raised slightly. "Because I remember a woman who walked into my home and immediately began critiquing how we do things, suggesting that our traditions were outdated and that we needed to modernize to be more like American celebrities." The audience gasped audibly. This was not the narrative that had been painted in previous interviews and documentaries. Meghan's face flushed slightly. "I think you might be misremembering." "Am I?" Kate's voice was getting stronger, more confident. Because I also remember you asking me about my marriage, specifically whether William and I were happy, and suggesting that royal marriages were typically arrangements rather than love matches. Whoopi tried to regain control of the interview. Catherine, these are some pretty serious allegations. They're not allegations, Kate replied firmly. They're memories, and I think it's time people heard them. She turned back to Meghan. Would you like to tell them about what you said about my children? The color drained from Meghan's face. Catherine, I think you're taking things out of context. Am I? Because I distinctly remember you telling me that my children seemed stiff and overly formal for their ages, and that you hoped your future children would be more authentic and free-spirited. The studio was dead silent. Even the hosts seemed stunned by the direction this conversation was taking. Meghan's carefully constructed public image was beginning to crumble in real time. I was trying to connect, Meghan said, her voice smaller now. I was nervous, and sometimes when I'm nervous, I say things that come out wrong. Kate's response was swift and devastating. For 2 hours, Meghan? Because that's how long you spent in my home, criticizing everything from our parenting style to our marriage, to the way we conduct our charitable work. That's not nerves. That's judgment. Meghan stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I don't have to listen to this character assassination. Character assassination? Kate's voice rose for the first time, though she remained seated. You mean like the character assassination you've been conducting on my family for the past several years? The tension in the room was palpable. Cameras captured every expression, every gesture, as these two women faced off in a way that nobody had ever seen before. Joy Behar attempted to intervene. Ladies, perhaps we should take a moment to— No, Meghan interrupted, her composure finally cracking completely. I came here in good faith to share my truth, and I'm being ambushed with lies and distortions. Kate stood up now too, her royal training evident in every movement. Your truth, Meghan? Or the truth that serves your narrative? Because I've been very patient, watching you rewrite history to make yourself the victim in every situation. Victim? Meghan's voice was getting louder. Do you have any idea what I went through? The racism, the isolation, the complete lack of support from your family? My family? Kate's voice was incredulous. The same family that welcomed you with open arms? The same family that bent over backwards to accommodate your every request? The same family that you're now trying to destroy with half-truths and manipulations? The confrontation was escalating rapidly, and it was clear that years of pent-up frustration were finally being released. The audience watched in stunned silence as two of the most recognizable women in the world engaged in a battle of words that would define both of their legacies. Meghan pointed an accusatory finger at Kate. You have no idea what it's like to be an outsider in that world. You were born into privilege, you understood the rules, you had support. Kate's response was sharp and immediate. I had support because I earned it. I didn't walk in demanding that centuries of tradition be changed to suit my preferences. I didn't throw tantrums when things didn't go my way. The words hit their mark, and Meghan's face contorted with anger. Tantrums? Is that what you call standing up for myself and my family? I call it exactly what it was, Kate replied, her voice steady and unforgiving. A pattern of behavior that put your own desires above the institution, above the people who serve it, and above the good of the country. The studio erupted in murmurs and gasps. This was far beyond anything anyone had expected, and it was clear that both women had reached a point of no return in their relationship. Whoopi attempted to restore some semblance of control, her voice cutting through the electric atmosphere. Ladies, I think we need to take a step back here. This is getting very heated. But Meghan was beyond the point of media-trained diplomacy. Her carefully curated public persona had been stripped away, revealing something raw and desperate underneath. No, Whoopi. I'm tired of taking steps back. I'm tired of being polite while my character gets destroyed by people who were never there, who never lived my experience. Kate remained standing, her posture straight and unwavering. Your experience, Meghan? Let's talk about your experience. Let's talk about how you treated the staff at Kensington Palace. The accusation hung in the air, like a bomb waiting to explode. Meghan's eyes flashed dangerously. How dare you bring up staff members who can't defend themselves or speak publicly? Can't they? Kate's voice was ice cold. Or won't they? Because they're bound by confidentiality agreements and a sense of duty that you clearly never understood. She paused, letting the words sink in. But I'm not bound by those same constraints when it comes to defending people who can't defend themselves. Sarah Haynes jumped in, sensing an opportunity to get more details. Catherine, are you suggesting that there were incidents with staff that haven't been reported? Kate's gaze never left Meghan's face. I'm suggesting that the narrative about a lonely, unsupported duchess doesn't match the reality of a woman who reduced grown adults to tears on a regular basis. That's enough, Meghan snapped, her voice shaking with rage. You're making things up now. Am I? Kate reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. Because I have text messages from staff members who were too afraid to speak publicly. Would you like me to read them? The color drained completely from Meghan's face. The hosts exchanged glances, realizing they were witnessing something far more serious than a typical celebrity feud. Joy Behar leaned forward. Catherine, that's a pretty serious accusation. It's not an accusation, Kate replied firmly. It's documentation. She looked directly at Meghan. Should I start with the messages from your former assistant who quit without notice? Or perhaps the ones from the nanny who was so traumatized she needed therapy? Meghan's hands were visibly shaking now. You have no right to invade people's privacy like that. Privacy? Kate's laugh was bitter. Like the privacy you afforded my family when you went on international television and made claims that you knew were false? Like the privacy you gave my children when you suggested in interviews that they were raised poorly? The audience was completely silent, hanging on every word. Sonny Hostin tried to redirect. Let's focus on the specific incidents. Catherine, what exactly are you alleging happened? Kate's voice was measured but relentless. I'm not alleging anything. I'm stating facts. Meghan, do you remember the incident with Charlotte's bridesmaid dress? Meghan's face went white. Don't you dare bring my niece into this. Your niece? Kate's eyebrows shot up. Charlotte is my daughter Meghan, my 3-year-old daughter who came home in tears after the dress fitting because someone screamed at her for fidgeting. The studio erupted. The hosts looked stunned, the audience gasped, and cameras captured every moment of Meghan's horror as her most guarded secret was exposed on live television. That's not what happened, Meghan said desperately. Charlotte was being difficult, and I was stressed about the wedding. She was 3 years old. Kate's voice was deadly quiet. She was a 3-year-old child who was excited about being in a wedding, and you made her cry because you couldn't control your own emotions. Whoopi tried to intervene again. This is getting very personal, ladies. It became personal the moment she made my child cry. Kate shot back, her composure finally showing cracks. It became personal when she started spreading lies about our family to anyone who would listen. Meghan was backing away now, her retreat clear to everyone watching. I never meant for any of this to become so public. Didn't you? Kate stepped closer, her voice rising. You never meant for the Oprah interview to be public? You never meant for the Netflix documentary to be public? You never meant for the book deals and the podcast interviews to be public? I was defending myself, Meghan protested weakly. You were monetizing your grievances, Kate corrected sharply. There's a difference between defending yourself and building a brand around being a victim. Joy Behar seized on this. Catherine, that's a pretty harsh way to put it. Kate turned to face the hosts, her years of media training evident in how she commanded the room. Is it harsh, or is it honest? Let's look at the timeline. Within months of leaving royal duties, there were book deals, production deals, speaking engagements, all centered around her time in the royal family. That's not someone seeking privacy. That's someone building a business. Meghan found her voice again, though it was strained. I had every right to tell my story. Your story, Kate repeated, turning back to face her. Not our story. Not the true story. Your version, carefully edited to make you the hero and everyone else the villain. I never called anyone a villain, Meghan protested. Kate's response was swift and devastating. You didn't need to use the word. You painted me as cold and unwelcoming. You painted William as complicit in racism. You painted the Queen, God rest her soul, as someone who failed to protect you. You systematically destroyed reputations while claiming you just wanted to live quietly. The mention of the late Queen brought a new level of gravity to the confrontation. The audience seemed to collectively hold its breath. Sarah Haynes spoke softly. "Catherine, those are some very serious accusations about how the Queen was portrayed." Kate's voice broke slightly for the first time. "My grandmother-in-law spent her final years reading headlines about how she had failed, how she had allowed racism to flourish in her family. A woman who dedicated her entire life to service, who welcomed Meghan with open arms, died reading stories about how she was complicit in driving someone away." Tears were visible in Kate's eyes now, but her voice remained strong. "Do you have any idea what that did to her? Do you care?" Meghan looked stricken. "I never wanted to hurt the Queen. I respected her deeply." "Did you?" Kate's voice was incredulous. "Because respect doesn't look like giving interviews while someone is on their deathbed. Respect doesn't look like releasing documentaries that question their judgment and legacy." "I didn't know she was," Meghan started. "Dying?" Kate finished. "None of us knew the exact timeline, but we all knew she was frail. We all knew that every headline hurt her. But your production schedule was more important than her peace of mind." The confrontation had reached a level of intensity that was clearly affecting everyone in the room. Whoopi made another attempt to restore some order. "I think we need to remember that we're talking about real people here, real relationships." "Exactly," Kate agreed, never taking her eyes off Meghan. "Real people whose reputations you destroyed for profit. Real children who will grow up reading lies about their family. Real staff members who were afraid to speak up because they knew they'd be painted as racist or complicit." Meghan was visibly struggling now, her confident facade completely shattered. "I never set out to hurt anyone." "But you did hurt people," Kate pressed on relentlessly. "And when you realized you were hurting people, did you stop? Did you reconsider? Or did you double down and hurt them more?" "I had to protect my family," Meghan said desperately. "By destroying mine?" Kate's voice rose again. "By teaching your children that their cousin's family are the enemy? By ensuring that our children will grow up reading lies about each other's parents?" The personal cost of the feud was becoming clear to everyone watching. These weren't just public figures trading barbs. These were family members whose conflict would affect generations. Sunny Hostin tried to find some middle ground. "Surely there's a way for both families to move forward." Kate shook her head sadly. "How do you move forward with someone who profits from conflict? Every time there's a resolution, there's another interview, another revelation, another story to sell." Meghan's desperation was palpable now. "That's not fair. I've tried to move on." "Have you?" Kate pulled out her phone again. "Because I have the dates right here. Every time our family has a major event, a celebration, a milestone, within days there's a new story from your side. William's birthday, our anniversary, the children's achievements, they're all followed by headlines about your struggles or revelations about your time with us." The pattern Kate was describing was becoming clear to everyone watching. The timing wasn't coincidental. It was calculated. Meghan's face showed she knew she'd been caught in something she couldn't deny. "I don't control the media cycle," she said weakly. "No, but you feed it," Kate replied. "And you know exactly when to feed it for maximum impact." The confrontation was reaching a breaking point, and it was clear that something dramatic was about to happen. The tension in the room was so thick it was almost suffocating, and both women looked like they were preparing for a final, decisive exchange that would determine how this explosive encounter would end. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity before Meghan found her voice, though it was barely above a whisper. "You're trying to destroy me." Kate's response was immediate and unflinching. "I'm trying to protect my family from further destruction. There's a difference." "Everything I've said has been my truth," Meghan insisted, but her voice lacked the conviction it had carried earlier. "Your truth?" Kate repeated, her tone now carrying a mixture of exhaustion and determination. "Let's talk about your truth regarding the bridesmaid dress incident. You've told the world that I made you cry. Would you like to tell them what really happened? Or shall I?" The entire studio seemed to lean forward collectively. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for, the clarification of one of the most talked-about claims from Meghan's previous interviews. Meghan's face went through a series of expressions: fear, anger, and something that looked like resignation. "Catherine, please," Meghan said, but there was no strength left in her voice. "No more, please," Kate replied firmly. You've had years to set the record straight. And instead, you've doubled down on lies. The truth is that you made me cry. You made me cry because you screamed at my daughter. You made me cry because you told me I was a terrible mother. And you made me cry because you said my children were spoiled brats who needed real discipline. The audience gasped audibly. Even the hosts looked shocked by the revelation. Joy Behar leaned forward. "Catherine, that's a very different version of events." "It's the true version," Kate said, her voice steady despite the emotional weight of her words. "And when I tried to address it with you privately, Meghan, you told me that if I had a problem with how you spoke to children, then maybe I shouldn't have had so many." The cruelty of the alleged comment hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Meghan looked stricken, her carefully maintained image crumbling in real time. "I was under enormous pressure," she said weakly. "We were all under pressure," Kate shot back. "The difference is that some of us don't take our pressure out on children." Whoopi tried desperately to regain control of the situation. "Ladies, I think we need to take a commercial break." "No," both women said simultaneously, then glared at each other. Kate continued, her voice growing stronger. "I think people deserve to hear this. Meghan, do you want to tell them about the birthday party incident, or should I?" "What birthday party incident?" Sarah Haynes asked, clearly invested in getting the full story. Meghan looked panicked. "Catherine, that was a private family matter. Like everything else was supposed to be private until you decided to monetize it?" Kate's voice was sharp. "You came to Louis's third birthday party and spent the entire time filming everything on your phone, despite being asked repeatedly to put it away. When William finally took your phone, you accused him of being controlling and racist. The revelation sent shockwaves through the studio." Sunny Hostin looked incredulous. "You were filming at a child's birthday party?" "I was capturing memories," Meghan said defensively, but her voice was small. "You were gathering content," Kate corrected. "Content that I guarantee would have ended up in your documentary, or sold to a tabloid if William hadn't intervened." "That's not true," Meghan protested, but her denial lacked conviction. Kate pulled out her phone again. "I have the video William took of you filming. Would you like me to show everyone how you were positioning yourself to capture conversations, to record moments that were supposed to be private family time?" Meghan stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I don't have to listen to this anymore. This is harassment." "Harassment?" Kate's voice rose to match Meghan's movement. "Like the harassment you've subjected my family to for years? Like the constant threat of another interview, another revelation, another story that will hurt people who can't defend themselves?" "I never threatened anyone," Meghan said, backing toward the edge of the stage. "Didn't you?" Kate stood as well, her composure finally giving way to raw emotion. "What do you call it when you tell someone that if they don't do what you want, they'll read about it in the newspapers? What do you call it when you record conversations without permission and then threaten to release them?" The audience was completely silent, watching this unprecedented meltdown of two of the world's most famous women. Joy Behar attempted to intervene. "Catherine, those are some very serious allegations." "They're not allegations when I have proof," Kate replied, her voice breaking slightly. "I have recordings of phone calls where she threatened to release private conversations. I have text messages where she demanded money to keep quiet about family matters. I have evidence of a pattern of behavior that goes far beyond anything the public has seen." Meghan was visibly shaking now. "You're lying. You're making this all up to destroy me." "Am I?" Kate's voice was deadly quiet. "Then why are you running away instead of defending yourself? Why aren't you demanding to see this evidence? Why aren't you standing your ground if you have nothing to hide?" "Because this is insane," Meghan shouted, her composure completely gone. "This is character assassination on live television." "This is accountability," Kate corrected firmly. "This is what happens when you spend years destroying other people's reputations, and someone finally has the courage to fight back." Whoopi made one last attempt to restore order. "Ladies, I think we should all take a moment to calm down." "No," Meghan said, her voice shrill now. "I'm done. I'm done with this family. I'm done with these lies. And I'm done pretending that any of you people care about the truth." She turned toward the exit, but Kate's voice stopped her. "That's right, Meghan. Run away. It's what you do when things get difficult. You run away, and then you write a book about how everyone else was the problem. Meghan spun around, her face contorted with rage.
How dare you judge me? You have no idea what I've been through.
I know exactly what you've been through, Kate replied, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. You've been through the same adjustment period that every person who marries into this family goes through. The difference is that you decided to burn it all down when you realized you couldn't change centuries of tradition to suit your personal preferences. I tried to make it work, Meghan screamed. For 18 months? Kate shot back. 18 months before you decided that if you couldn't be the star of the show, you'd destroy the entire production. The confrontation had reached a level of intensity that was clearly affecting everyone in the room. Cameras captured every moment as Meghan completely lost control. You people are sick. This whole family is sick, and I'm glad I got out when I did. Then, why can't you leave us alone? Kate's question was simple but devastating. If we're so terrible, if the family is so toxic, why can't you move on with your life instead of constantly looking back and attacking us? Meghan had no answer. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. The truth of Kate's question hung in the air, unanswerable, because the answer would expose the very motivations that Meghan had spent years denying. Because you need us, Kate continued, her voice softer now but no less powerful. You need the conflict, you need the drama, you need the connection to us, because without it, what are you? You're not a working royal anymore. You're not a successful actress. You're not an influential humanitarian. You're just someone who used to be married to a prince, and that's not enough to sustain the lifestyle and attention you want. The words hit like physical blows. Meghan's face went through a series of expressions: shock, hurt, rage, and finally, a kind of desperate fury that made everyone in the studio take a step back. I hate you, she said, her voice low and venomous. I hate all of you. I hate this family. I hate this country. And I hate everyone who believes your lies. She turned toward the exit again, but this time Kate didn't try to stop her. There it is, Kate said quietly. There's the real Meghan Markle. Not the victim, not the humanitarian, not the misunderstood Duchess. Just someone filled with hate because the world didn't rearrange itself to make her happy. Meghan stopped at the edge of the stage, her back to the audience. For a moment, it seemed like she might turn around and continue the fight. Instead, she pulled off her microphone and threw it on the floor, the sound echoing through the stunned silence of the studio. This interview is over, she announced to no one in particular, and stormed off the stage, leaving behind a wake of shocked silence and the unmistakable sense that viewers had just witnessed something that would be talked about for years to come. Kate remained standing, watching Meghan's retreat with a mixture of sadness and resolve. I didn't want it to come to this, she said to the hosts, her voice heavy with emotion. But sometimes the truth is ugly. And sometimes protecting the people you love means accepting that you'll be seen as the villain by those who profit from being victims. The studio remained silent for several long moments before Whoopi finally found her voice. Well, I think it's safe to say that this was not the interview any of us expected. Kate nodded, straightening her shoulders and resuming the composed demeanor that had made her one of the most respected members of the royal family. The truth rarely is what we expect, but it's always what we need. As the cameras continued to roll, capturing the aftermath of this unprecedented confrontation, viewers around the world realized they had just witnessed something historic. Not just a celebrity feud, but the complete unraveling of a carefully constructed narrative and the explosive revelation of years of hidden truths. The royal family would never be the same, and neither would the woman who had just stormed off the stage, leaving behind more questions than answers and a legacy that would be debated for generations to come. What did you think of this explosive confrontation? Do you believe Kate's version of events, or do you think Meghan was right to walk away? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and make sure to subscribe for more shocking celebrity revelations that you won't see anywhere else.